Hello and welcome back to the 10th free video in the Serve and Grow Rich program that teaches you how to make more money in your current restaurant job. Two messages in this video as well. The first is kind of a touchy situation, and that is, should you ever touch your customers? And obviously, this is a very discretionary tactic or method when you're dealing with the public. First of all, I do want to point out that you are living on a one-way street. Customers touch restaurant workers all the time, and that's just the way it is. You can't really make a fuss about it. If someone's trying to get your attention and you actually can't hear them and they try 2 or 3 or 4 times, they will reach out and grab your hip or touch the back of your elbow if you are facing away from them. And you just have to deal with it. So if you're someone who doesn't like to be touched, please be advised, it will happen. And I'm not even talking about anything really inappropriate, just the normal give and take of working in this environment, in this capacity. But when it comes to touching customers, it can totally be done if it's natural, if it arises out of the situation. In no way does this mean running up to people, greeting them enthusiastically with a bear hug. This is more about, again, ebb and flow. So let's say you're coming around by the host stand and there's a party waiting there. You're not really paying attention, but it's a regular who you know from the restaurant, and he reaches out and says, hey dude, and he touches you, your elbow, your forearm, your upper arm, whatever. You can turn around and you recognize the person and say, oh, hey man, how you doing? You shake his hand, you put your other hand on his shoulder and say, hey, I've got a table opening up. Why don't you see if you can sit in my section? Very natural. Same thing occurs, let's say a customer wants to get your attention in a quiet manner. They will often touch your forearm. They'll reach out and say, excuse me. And that is clearly a signal that it would be nice to bend down and hear what they have to say. It's often a request about food or a question about what's in the food, like, is there salt in the matzo ball soup? And of course, what you're thinking is, yes, matzo ball soup is made out of salt and water. But of course, you can't say it. So as someone is asking you a question, they've touched your forearm, you can reciprocate. You can say, yes, what is it? How can I help you? Did you have a question? It's, again, part of normal human communication that arises out of interactions in a restaurant environment. And the same goes for if a guy, kind of waves at you like, hey, buddy, and it's a kind of a backslapping kind of thing, and he's making a joke. You can do it back. Just like, yeah, it's okay, we're friends. And, I'm with you on this. So touching a customer, again, very selective, only if it arises out of the normal give and take of your relationship, which is pretty narrowly defined in a restaurant. But at the same time, it does increase that emotional connection, however brief, the customer has with you, which does lead to higher tips. So you want to be on the lookout to either take advantage of a situation where you can touch a customer or develop ways where you can make it arise. The second topic in this message is about being entertaining. And this goes back to the idea from a previous video about being yourself, about being genuine. Everyone's worked in a restaurant with the magician, the guy who's been doing magic tricks since his bar mitzvah. And that's cool. They're fun to watch. I was never that guy, but anyone who's worked in a restaurant has come across somebody who can do, half a dozen pretty cool magic tricks, and people gather around. Now think about that if you've ever experienced it. It is part of the engineered environment of happiness that is a restaurant. It keeps things light and buoyant and jolly. And that is what really your goal should be if you want to do something entertaining for your guests or the restaurant. Now, people in the arts are clearly well known over the years to work in restaurants. So you have singers, actors, comedians, all kinds of people who have at least some sort of training or amateur ambition to work in entertainment-related industries. And if you do it in the restaurant. It's about keeping things festive. You can break out in song, even if you don't work in a singing waiter restaurant. This kind of thing. It's just about keeping things slightly unexpected, but not completely surreal. Restaurant work, because it is this engineered environment geared toward happiness, is one of the few workplaces where you can actually be an individual, where you can be slightly askew, to borrow a phrase, I think, from Kevin Smith, the filmmaker. So it's okay to be entertaining if that is your natural personality. And that wraps up the 10th video in the Serve and Grow Rich program, which I am convinced can help you make 10% more money this week in your current restaurant job if you start thinking a little bit differently and applying some of these very practical tips. Thanks so much for watching, and please join us in the 11th video.